Hey guys, I'm in Cayley's room and I thought I would do my best to explain what happened the day that Cayley died. I don't think I've really gone through it with anyone other than my therapist, and even then it was very like she had to give me a lot of prompting questions. I didn't just go in like, you know, this is what happened that day. And there's so much more to her story than that day. So anyway, it was a Tuesday. She had online class that day because the upperclassmen were testing. So she was home. My son still had school. Camden still had school. He was at the junior high, so their schedule was not changed. So I got up normally, took him to the bus stop, and then I came back and, my back hurts. Came back and got ready for work like I normally would. Now, when I was bustling around getting ready all morning, I had heard her up and like moving around a little bit in her room, which I kind of was like, that's weird. You know, she's not a morning girl at all. So I checked in on her before I left, you know, got ready for work and all that. I checked in on her and I knocked and I didn't get an answer. So I, you know, cracked the door open and I could tell she was pretending to be asleep. But I didn't, you know, try to wake her up. I just tiptoed over to her. I kissed her on the top of the head and I told her I loved her. And I tiptoed out and went to work. I could tell she had been crying. Like, you know, it was her face was red. That showed evidence of crying. But, you know, we'll get more into that later. So I'm working about mid-morning. I wanted to check in on her, hoping, you know, that she actually did fall asleep. And hopefully she was back up. I wanted to see if she was hungry. She had a therapy appointment later that afternoon. Don't mind my dogs in the back. So I wanted to remind her, make sure she was ready for that. And I wanted to see how she was feeling because it had been rough for months. And really bad the last couple weeks. Sorry about my dog. So I sent her a text. You know, I said, how are you feeling? Are you hungry? Don't forget about therapy, you know. So Cayley replied to my text. And she said she was sorry and she couldn't do it anymore. I replied with, what? Question mark. I thought maybe she was talking about therapy. Therapy was a fight every week, usually to get her to go. And she was even doing, you know, virtual. But anyway, I thought that's what she was talking about. She replied back and said she was really sorry. She left me a note and she loved me so much. So I immediately called her and got no answer. Called again, got no answer. Sent a text, no answer. Got on our cameras around our home, nothing, no, you know, nothing alerting me. It was a sense of panic where you feel like you're, or what I would imagine it would feel like before you have a heart attack, mixed with a deep solace. And I just knew. My heart knew she was already gone. But I called 911 and I stayed with them on the phone as I left work. The cops got here before me by just a couple minutes. So I'm driving home. I'm on the phone with 911, and the operator's also on a call with the policemen that are headed to the home. So I can hear like the entire conversation that's going on between them. And she was keeping me on the line, I guess, to make sure that I made it there safely because she knew I was driving. So when the police got here, they came in through the garage. We opened the garage door for them, virtually, like through an app. And they went in, searched the home. They were calling out her name, no response. And they got to her bedroom. The door was locked. They confirmed with me on the phone it was her bedroom and that they could kick the door in. And I could hear the reaction of the first cop that came through the door. And then he had to run outside. And he was trying not to throw up. I pulled up a couple seconds later. And he looked at me and he said, "She's gone." And I had to turn around and pray for strength and take a deep breath. And then I turned back around and I said, "How?" And he said, "There will be a detective here soon. He'll go over everything with you. Or talk to you or ask you questions," whatever. I don't remember exactly what he said. And then I just asked to sit down. I felt like I was gonna faint. And it was cold. It was so cold, and it was windy and cold, and we live at the top of this hill, so it just bites you. And there was like this light dusting of snow in the grass still from a little bit of snow we had gotten that morning. Shortly after, I got to sit down, I was trying to gather my thoughts. The detective sat me down and asked me if I knew how Cayley could get a hold of a firearm. She figured out the code to a safe. And her last Google search was how to use the gun. And no, it was not my gun. She then proceeded to get under her covers in her bed, and she shot herself in the head. She did not suffer. I truly believe she didn't feel anything. But there was enough emotional pain going on that I'm grateful that she didn't suffer physically. But she was already suffering physically. I'll get into this more in another video about signs. I had the suicide talk with her twice, and I know that numerous doctors did as well. And she was never honest with anybody that I'm aware of, anyway. I've had the front seat at a lot of funerals. I'm so sorry about my dogs. I lost my husband, I lost my brother, and now Cayley. And there's so much to be done immediately after somebody dies. It's very tunnel vision of getting through the funeral, I feel like, personally. And then it's like after that, you have no idea. Like, what are your goals? Who are you? It changed everything. So anyway, Camden was, at school while this was all going on. So he was getting dropped off at the end of our street, and the house was just still filled with, the ambulance workers, or the paramedics, the cops, detectives, all this. So I had someone pick him up at the bus stop and take him to my mom's. And then when her body was removed from the house and all the cops were gone, I had him come back home. When Cayley was 5, I had to sit her on her bed and tell her dad died. Camden was 2 at that time. And then that day I had to sit Camden down at 12 years old and tell him that his sister committed suicide. Those are 2 moments that will haunt me. Those 2 moments are gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. No one should die this way. We are failing our kids. And I say we because it takes everybody. It takes the schools. It takes the friends. It takes every little encounter you have with somebody and the way you treat people. Cayley was thriving a year before she died. I mean, thriving. And within a year, I watched the life just leave her eyes. And eventually I lost her too. But I won't be sharing her letter. That's very personal to me. I might share pieces of it. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to, pray about that and think about that a little bit. But anyway, I love you all. Please remember to be nice to each other and be kind. And if you see somebody who looks like they're struggling, don't stop finding a way to be there for them. Anyway, I love y'all.